Hey geezer, didn't you get the memo? It's time for you to leave. We don't need fossils like you clogging up the works. The brash voice of the young man echoed across the open-plan office, drawing curious and uncomfortable glances from other employees. Before I could respond, I felt a warm liquid cascade over my head, trickling down my face and seeping into my freshly pressed shirt. The pungent aroma of coffee filled the air. Oops, my bad. Guess your shiny dome makes for a great coffee slide, huh? Consider it a parting gift, old-timer. The office fell into a deathly silence. The tension was palpable, but not for the reason Jake assumed. I slowly rose from my chair, coffee dripping from my chin onto the carpet. With deliberate calmness, I turned to face the smirking young man. Son, do you have any idea of the consequences of your actions? What's the matter, Grabs? Gonna run to HR and tattle? Good luck with that. They're looking to clean house of relics like you anyway. Just then, the glass door of the office swung open with a bang. William Hawkins, one of the board members, strode in, his face a mask of shock and anger. Mr. O'Connor, I can't begin to express how sorry I am for this disgraceful behavior. This is absolutely unacceptable. Jake's smirk faltered, confusion clouding his features. Mr. Hawkins, why are you apologizing to this old dude? Bill paid no attention to Jake, instead bowing his head respectfully towards me. CEO, I assure you we'll handle this situation immediately. The board will be informed, and appropriate action will be taken. The color drained from Jake's face as the realization hit him like a freight train. His eyes darted between Bill and me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. CEO, but you're just a new hire. I saw your orientation packet. I calmly wiped some coffee from my brow, my gaze steady on the now trembling Jake. That orientation packet was part of my undercover mission, young man. I believe we have a lot to discuss about your future in this company, or lack thereof. The office erupted into hushed whispers. Jake looked as if he might faint, his earlier bravado evaporating in an instant. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to change my shirt. Bill, would you mind escorting our young friend here to the conference room? I think it's time for an impromptu performance review. As I walked towards the exit, I could hear Jake's stammered apologies fading behind me. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a lesson he'd never forget. As I walked away from the scene, coffee still dripping from my clothes, I paused at the door and turned back to face the stunned office. You know, in all my years in business, I've learned one crucial lesson. It's not about how you fall, but how you rise, and sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. I fixed my gaze on Jake, who was now pale and trembling. Young man, you've just given this company a valuable gift. You've shown us exactly where we need to improve in our hiring process, our company culture, and our mentorship programs. The office was dead silent, all eyes alternating between Jake and me. From this moment on, we're going to implement changes that will ensure that every employee, regardless of age or position, is treated with respect and given the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to our success. I smiled, a glint of determination in my eye. As for you, Jake, I hope you're ready for a crash course in humility, empathy, and professional conduct. Your real education starts now. With those words, I exited the office, leaving behind a wake of whispers and wide-eyed stares. The stage was set for a transformation, not just for Jake, but for the entire company. Little did they know, this coffee incident was about to become the catalyst for a corporate revolution. My name is Robert O'Connor, though most people call me Bob. At 57, I find myself in an unusual position. I'm the CEO of a group of 50 companies, yet here I am, posing as a new entry-level employee. It all started 30 years ago when I joined a small manufacturing firm. The owners saw potential in me, and I gradually climbed the corporate ladder. Then, a decade ago, I was suddenly entrusted with the leadership of the entire group. It was a daunting responsibility, one that I wasn't sure I was ready for. As the years passed, a nagging doubt grew within me. Was I truly in touch with the day-to-day realities of our employees? Were we fostering the right company culture, These questions led me to make a bold decision to go undercover as a new hire. Of course, this operation isn't entirely solo. I've enlisted the help of Bill Hawkins, a board member and old friend, and Michael Lawson in HR. They're the only ones who know my true identity. For the past month, I've been working in our newest division, a tech startup we acquired last year. It's a far cry from the old manufacturing floor where I started, filled with young, ambitious employees who see things very differently from how I did at their age. I've witnessed brilliant ideas, questionable practices, and everything in between. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened today with Jake Thompson. His actions have made one thing clear. We have serious issues to address in our company culture. As I sit here in my temporary cubicle, still sticky from the coffee incident, I can't help but feel that this might be the wake-up call our company needed. It's time for some real changes, and I'm more determined than ever to make them happen. My undercover journey is far from over. In fact, I think it's just beginning. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, coffee-stained as they may be. The day after the coffee incident, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. The tension from yesterday still lingered in the air, but there was also an undercurrent of excitement. Whispers followed me as I made my way to my cubicle, but I pretended not to notice. Jake was nowhere to be seen. I later learned from Emily that he had been suspended pending a formal review. The news had spread like wildfire, and the office was abuzz with speculation about what would happen next. As I settled into my chair, I noticed a small group of employees huddled near the water cooler, stealing glances in my direction. I could hear snippets of their conversation. "Can you believe it? The CEO right under our noses? I always thought there was something different about him. Do you think he'll fire Jake?" I sighed inwardly. This wasn't exactly how I had planned for my identity to be revealed, but I knew I had to make the best of the situation. I stood up and approached the group. "Good morning, everyone. I know you all have questions, and I promise we'll address everything soon. For now, let's focus on our work, shall we?" The group dispersed, looking slightly embarrassed at being caught gossiping. As they returned to their desks, I noticed Emily lingering behind. "Mr. O'Connor, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about what happened yesterday. Jake doesn't represent all of us younger employees." "Thank you, Emily. I know that. And please, call me Bob. I may be the CEO, but I'm still the same person you've been working with for the past month." Emily smiled, visibly relieved. As she turned to leave, I added, "Oh, and Emily, I've been impressed with your work. Keep it up." The genuine surprise and pleasure on her face reminded me why I had undertaken this undercover mission in the first place. These small, personal interactions were something I had been missing as CEO. As the day progressed, I tried to maintain my usual routine, but it was clear that things had changed. People were more hesitant to approach me, and conversations would stop abruptly when I walked by. It wasn't the environment I wanted to foster. Around midday, I received a call from Bill. "Bob, the board wants to meet. They're not happy about the situation." I expected as much. Set it up for tomorrow morning, and Bill, thanks for having my back yesterday. "Always, Bob. See you tomorrow." As I hung up, I noticed Michael from HR approaching my cubicle. His face was a mask of professional concern, but I could see the hint of amusement in his eyes. "Mr. O'Connor, could I have a word with you in private?" I nodded, following him to a small conference room. As soon as the door closed behind us, Michael's professional demeanor cracked. "Bob, I have to hand it to you. When you said you wanted to shake things up, I didn't think you meant literally with coffee." "Not quite what I had in mind, Michael, but it certainly highlighted some issues we need to address." Michael nodded, his expression turning serious. "I've been going through Jake's file. It's not good. There have been several complaints about his behavior, but they were all swept under the rug. It seems he has some connections in upper management." "Who's been protecting him?" Michael hesitated before responding. It's Richard Summers, the VP of Sales." I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Richard had been with the company for years, and I had always considered him a valuable asset. But if he was fostering this kind of toxic behavior... "All right, Michael, I want a full report on Jake's history with the company, including any incidents that were swept under the rug. And I want to know exactly how Richard has been involved. Can you have that for me by tomorrow morning? I have a feeling I'll need it for the board meeting. Absolutely, Bob. I'll get right on it. As he turned to leave, I added, and Michael, thank you for your discretion in all of this. I know it hasn't been easy keeping my secret. It's been an honor, Bob. And between you and me, it's been kind of fun watching you work from the ground up again. After Michael left, I decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. I sent out a company-wide email, calling for an all-hands meeting in the main conference room in an hour. As employees filed into the conference room, I could feel the nervous energy in the air. Some looked excited, others apprehensive. I waited until everyone was seated before stepping to the front of the room. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure by now you've all heard about yesterday's incident. Yes, it's true. I am Robert O'Connor, the CEO of this company. For the past month, I've been working alongside you as a new hire. I paused, letting this sink in. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I want to explain why I did this as CEO. It's easy to become disconnected from the day-to-day realities of the company. I wanted to experience firsthand what it's like to be a new employee here, to see our strengths and our weaknesses through fresh eyes. I saw a few nods of understanding, but many still looked uncertain. What I've learned has been invaluable. I've seen incredible talent and dedication, but I've also seen areas where we need to improve. Yesterday's incident with Jake Thompson highlighted one of those areas in a rather dramatic fashion. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. Let me be clear. What happened yesterday is not acceptable. Not just Jake's actions, but the culture that allowed someone like him to believe those actions were okay. We will be addressing this, and you'll see changes in the coming weeks. I noticed Emily in the front row, nodding vigorously. I want to assure you all that my time here hasn't been about spying or looking for reasons to fire people. It's been about understanding, about finding ways to make this company better for all of us. I took a deep breath before continuing. I know this revelation may have changed how you see me, or how you think you should act around me. Please don't let it. I'm still Bob, the guy you've been working with for the past month. I still want to hear your ideas, your concerns, your jokes. That's not going to change. I saw some of the tension in the room start to ease. In fact, I'm going to be extending my time in this role. There's still more for me to learn, and I believe this is the best way for me to do it. So for now, just treat me as you have been. Can we do that? There was a moment of silence. Then a voice from the back of the room called out, "Does this mean we can still ask you to make coffee runs, Bob?" The room erupted in laughter, and I couldn't help but join in. Well, I might be a bit more careful around coffee for a while, but sure, why not? The laughter grew, and I could feel the atmosphere in the room lighten considerably. As the meeting wrapped up, I could see that while some uncertainty remained, there was also a newfound sense of excitement and possibility in the air. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, preparing myself for the board meeting. As I walked through the office, I noticed people seemed more at ease, some even offering friendly smiles and greetings. Emily approached me as I was pouring myself a cup of coffee. Carefully, I might add. "Morning, Bob. How are you feeling about the board meeting?" A bit nervous, to be honest, but I believe in what we're doing here. We're all rooting for you, and thanks for being so open with us yesterday. It means a lot. I smiled, appreciating her support. As I headed towards the boardroom, I saw Michael hurrying towards me, a thick folder in his hands. "Bob, I've got that report you asked for. It's worse than we thought." I took the folder, flipping through it quickly. My frown deepened as I read. Multiple harassment complaints, all buried, aggressive behavior towards subordinates, and Richard's signature, approving transfers for anyone who complained too loudly. What are you going to do? What I have to, thanks, Michael. This will help. I entered the boardroom, where the other board members were already seated. The atmosphere was tense, to say the least. Bob, what were you thinking? This stunt could seriously damage our reputation. Not to mention the legal implications. What if Jake decides to sue? I held up my hand, silencing the room. I understand your concerns, but before we go any further, I want you all to read this. I distributed copies of Michael's report. The room fell silent as they read, expressions of shock and disgust appearing on their faces. This is what's really damaging our reputation. A culture where this kind of behavior is not only tolerated but protected. That's why I did what I did, and it's why we need to make some serious changes. But Bob, Richard is one of our top performers, the sales department. The sales department will survive without him. In fact, I believe it will thrive once we root out this toxic culture. I laid out my plan for restructuring the company culture, including new training programs, a revamped HR reporting system, and yes, the dismissal of both Jake and Richard. There was resistance, of course. Change is never easy, especially in a company as large as ours. But as the meeting progressed, I could see more and more board members coming around to my point of view. By the end of the meeting, we had a solid plan in place. It wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. As we adjourned, Bill approached me. That was impressive, Bob. You've got your work cut out for you, but I think you're on the right track. Thanks, Bill. I couldn't have done this without your support. As I left the boardroom, I saw Richard waiting outside, his face a mask of barely contained anger. Bob, we need to talk. Yes, we do, Richard. My office now. The conversation that followed was difficult, to say the least. Richard alternated between defiance, excuses, and finally, when he realized the extent of what we knew, desperate pleas. I'm sorry, Richard, but this decision is final. Your actions have caused immeasurable harm to this company and its employees. We'll handle this as discreetly as possible for the sake of the company. But your employment here is terminated, effective immediately. As security escorted Richard out, I couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and relief. This was a necessary step, but it was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, the changes we implemented sent shockwaves through the company. There was resistance from some quarters, confusion from others, but also a growing sense of hope and optimism. I continued to work from my cubicle, now openly as the CEO, but still very much involved in the day-to-day operations. I wanted to lead this change from the front lines, not from an isolated corner office. One day, as I was working late, I noticed Emily doing the same. She looked stressed, poring over some reports. Everything okay, Emily? Oh, Bob, I didn't realize you were still here. I'm just trying to finish this project proposal. With all the changes happening, I thought this might be a good time to pitch some ideas I've had. That's great, Emily. Want to run them by me? Her eyes widened in surprise, but she nodded eagerly. For the next hour, we discussed her ideas. They were innovative, thoughtful, and exactly the kind of fresh thinking we needed. Emily, these are excellent. I want you to present these at the next department meeting. Really, you think they're good enough? More than good enough. This is exactly the kind of innovation we need. You should be proud. The smile that lit up her face reminded me once again why I had embarked on this journey. This was what it was all about, creating an environment where everyone felt valued, where good ideas could flourish regardless of where they came from. As I packed up to leave that night, I realized that while we still had a long way to go, we were on the right path. The coffee incident, as unfortunate as it had been the wake-up call we needed, and I was determined to make the most of it. As the weeks passed, the company began to settle into a new rhythm. The initial shock of my revelation had worn off, and people were adjusting to the changes we'd implemented. However, not everyone was happy with the new direction. One morning, I overheard a conversation between two employees in the break room. I don't know, man. All these new inclusive policies are slowing everything down. We used to be able to get things done so much faster. Yeah, and what's with all these sensitivity trainings? It's like we can't even joke around anymore without someone crying harassment. I made a mental note to address these concerns in our next all-hands meeting. Change is never easy, and it was clear we needed to do a better job of explaining the reasons behind our new policies. As I walked back to my cubicle, I noticed a commotion near the elevators. A group of people were gathered around, whispering excitedly as I approached. The crowd parted, revealing a familiar face. Well, look who it is, the big man himself. I was surprised to see Jake back in the office after the incident. He had been put on indefinite leave, pending a full investigation. His presence here was unexpected, to say the least. Jake, I wasn't aware you'd be returning to the office today. Oh, I bet you weren't. Thought you'd gotten rid of me, didn't you? Well, surprise. His voice was loud, drawing attention from everyone in the vicinity. I could see the fear and discomfort on my employees' faces. Jake, why don't we take this conversation to a more private setting? Why? Afraid your loyal subjects might hear something you don't want them to. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. Jake, I'm giving you one chance to handle this professionally. Let's discuss this in my office. Oh, now you want to be professional. Where was that professionalism when you were sneaking around, pretending to be someone you're not? I could see this situation was quickly spiraling out of control. Just then, Michael from HR appeared at my side. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me now. Jake sneered at Michael but seemed to think better of causing more of a scene. As Michael led him away, I turned to address the gathered employees. I apologize for that disturbance, please. Return to your work. I'll address this situation as soon as I have more information. As the crowd dispersed, I caught sight of Emily. The worry on her face mirrored my own internal concerns. Bob, is everything okay? I thought Jake had been let go. So did I, Emily. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. In the meantime, can you do me a favor? Keep an ear out. If people are worried or if there are rumors spreading, let me know. Emily nodded, her expression serious. Of course, you can count on me. I headed straight for my office, where I found Bill waiting for me. Bob, we have a problem. I'll say, what's Jake doing back here? He's threatening to sue for wrongful termination. His lawyer contacted us this morning. Apparently, they're claiming that Jake's behavior was part of the company culture we fostered, and that singling him out for punishment is discriminatory. I sank into my chair, the weight of this new challenge settling on my shoulders. That's ridiculous. We have documented complaints against him. Yes, but remember, those complaints were buried by Richard. Jake's lawyer is arguing that this proves his behavior was sanctioned by upper management. Damn, he's got a point. Not a good one, but enough to cause us trouble. There's more. Jake is demanding reinstatement to his position, plus a substantial settlement for emotional distress. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh at that. Emotional distress, after what he did, unbelievable. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Michael. Bob, I've got Jake settled in the conference room. His lawyer is on the way. What do you want to do? I took a moment to think, then made a decision. All right, here's what we're going to do, Michael. I want you to sit in on the meeting with Jake and his lawyer. Take meticulous notes, Bill. Can you contact our legal team? I want them ready to respond to whatever Jake's lawyer throws at us. On it. And Michael, after the meeting, I want you to pull every single document related to Jake's employment. Performance reviews, complaints, everything. Even if it was buried before, I want it found now. Understood. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk to our employees. They need to hear from me about what's happening. As Bill and Michael left to carry out their tasks, I sat at my desk, trying to gather my thoughts. This situation with Jake was a major setback, but I couldn't let it derail all the progress we'd made. I decided to start with a company-wide email, calling for another all-hands meeting in an hour. Then, I began to prepare what I would say. An hour later, I stood before my employees once again. The tension in the room was palpable. Thank you all for coming. I know there's been some confusion and concern about what happened earlier today with Jake Thompson. I want to address that directly. I took a deep breath before continuing. Jake is threatening legal action against the company, claiming wrongful termination. I want to be clear. We stand by our decision to terminate Jake's employment. His behavior was unacceptable, and it goes against everything we're trying to build here. I could see nods of agreement from many in the room, but also some skeptical looks. I know some of you have had concerns about the changes we've been implementing. You might be wondering if all of this is worth it. Let me assure you, it is. I paused, making eye contact with as many people as I could. What we're doing here isn't just about policies or procedures. It's about creating a workplace where everyone feels valued, respected, and safe. A place where your ideas are heard, regardless of your position or how long you've been here. I saw Emily in the front row, smiling encouragingly. The road ahead might be challenging. There might be more obstacles like this one with Jake, but I promise you, we will face them together. We will come out stronger on the other side. As I finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. It wasn't universal. I could see some employees holding back, but it was heartening nonetheless. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find Michael waiting for me. "Bob, I've got an update on the situation with Jake." "Go ahead." "Well, the meeting with his lawyer was interesting. They're pushing hard for reinstatement and a settlement, but here's the thing. I think Jake might be bluffing." "What makes you say that?" "His lawyer seemed underprepared. He didn't have specific dates or incidents to back up their claims. I think they're hoping we'll settle quickly to avoid bad publicity." I leaned back in my chair, considering this information. "Interesting. What about those documents I asked you to find?" "That's the other thing. We found a lot more than we expected. It's not just complaints against Jake. There's a pattern of similar behavior across several departments, all swept under the rug by Richard and a few others in upper management." I felt a mix of anger and disappointment at this news. So it really was a systemic problem. "Yes, but Bob, this could actually work in our favor. It proves that we're serious about changing the culture. We're not just scapegoating Jake. We're addressing a company-wide issue." I nodded, seeing where Michael was going with this. "We can use this to show that Jake's behavior wasn't sanctioned, but part of a larger problem we're actively working to fix." "Exactly." Just then, Bill burst into the office. "Bob, we've got another problem. Someone leaked info about Jake's lawsuit to the press. It's already hitting the local news." I closed my eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath when I opened them. Both Bill and Michael were looking at me expectantly. "All right, here's what we're going to do, Michael. I want a full report on everything you've found, every complaint, every buried incident. Bill, get our PR team in here now. We're going to get ahead of this story." As they left to carry out their tasks, I turned to look out the window. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. I thought about how much had changed in just a few short weeks, and how much was still left to do. This challenge with Jake was unexpected, but perhaps it was exactly what we needed. A chance to prove that our commitment to change was more than just words. A chance to show our employees, our customers, and the world what kind of company we really wanted to be. I turned back to my desk, rolled up my sleeves, and got to work. The night ahead would be long, but I was ready for it. After all, real change never comes easy. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The news of Jake's lawsuit had indeed hit the local media, and we were working around the clock to manage the situation. Our PR team had crafted a statement emphasizing our commitment to creating a positive work environment and addressing past issues head-on. I was in the middle of a conference call with our legal team when Emily knocked on my office door, her face pale with worry. "I'll have to call you back," I said, ending the call. "Emily, what's wrong?" "Bob, you need to see this." She handed me her tablet, open to a local news website. The headline made my heart sink. "Tech CEO's undercover boss stunt backfires. Employees claim invasion of privacy." The article quoted several anonymous employees who claimed they felt betrayed and violated by my undercover operation. They argued that it created an atmosphere of distrust and surveillance in the workplace. "This is not good," I muttered, scrolling through the article. "There's more. People are talking about it all over the office. Some are even saying they're considering quitting." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. Just when I thought we were making progress, this new crisis threatened to undo everything. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Emily. Can you ask Michael and Bill to come to my office immediately? As Emily left, I skimmed through the article again. The quotes were particularly damning. It feels like we were all part of some sick social experiment. One employee reportedly said, "How can we trust anything now?" Another was quoted saying, "This is worse than having cameras in the office. At least with cameras, you know you're being watched." Within minutes, Michael and Bill arrived, both looking grim. "We've seen the article. It's bad, Bob. Our PR team is already working on a response, but this could seriously damage employee morale and our public image." I nodded, my mind racing with potential solutions. "We need to address this head-on. No more prepared statements or carefully worded emails. I want to talk to everyone, face to face." "Are you sure that's wise, given the current sentiment?" "It's risky, I know, but it's the only way. We can't hide behind corporate speak anymore. It's time for total transparency." "What exactly are you planning?" "An open forum, all employees, no holds barred. They can ask me anything, and I mean anything, about the undercover operation, about Jake, about our plans for the future, everything." Michael and Bill exchanged worried glances. "Bob, that could open us up to all sorts of legal issues. Not to mention, it could get ugly." "I know, but we can't build trust without taking risks, Michael. Can you set it up for tomorrow morning and make sure everyone knows it's completely voluntary? No one will be penalized for not attending or for anything they say during the forum." Michael nodded, though he still looked uncertain. "And Bill, I want you to contact Jake's lawyer. Tell him we're willing to meet, but on our terms, no reinstatement. But we're open to discussing a reasonable settlement if he drops the lawsuit and signs an NDA." "You sure about that? It might look like we're admitting guilt." "Maybe, but it might also show that we're willing to take responsibility for past mistakes. And right now, we need to focus on rebuilding trust with our current employees." As Michael and Bill left to carry out their tasks, I turned back to the window, watching the bustling city below. I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a terrible mistake with my undercover plan. Had my good intentions only served to create more problems? The next morning, I arrived at the office early. The large conference room was set up for the open forum, with chairs arranged in a circle. As employees began to file in, I could feel the tension in the air. Some avoided eye contact, while others stared at me with open hostility. Once everyone was seated, I took a deep breath and began. "Thank you all for coming. I know the past few weeks have been challenging and confusing. You've had to deal with a lot of changes. And now this news about my undercover work has understandably upset many of you. I'm here to answer any questions you have, honestly and openly." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a hand went up. "How can we trust anything you say? You've been lying to us for months." The bluntness of the question stung, but I knew I had to face it head on. "You're right. I did deceive you about my identity, and for that, I'm truly sorry. My intentions were good. I wanted to understand the day-to-day realities of working here. But I now see that my method was flawed. I violated your trust, and I take full responsibility for that." Another employee spoke up, anger evident in her voice.